Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Olson from the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I've been working with Julia for almost 100 episodes now, and she has really helped me grow my podcast from basically just my parents, my husband and kids, and my sister as listeners to over 17,000 downloads. I mean, the amount that she expanded my audience went way beyond my expectations. She really blew my mind. I have quadrupled the number of downloads over the past 12 months. Julia has been so much more than just my podcast teacher. She has been like a partner to me, really taking an interest in my program and helping me more than I ever could have asked for. I highly recommend Julia.
How amazing is that? I am so grateful that Dr. Lisa shared her experience. And if her story resonated with you and you're thinking, wait, I want results like that too, that is exactly what we're doing inside the Podcast Growth Collective. It's the place for online business owners who want to turn podcasting into a powerful growth tool without the burnout and without guessing what to fix. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally start seeing results from your podcast, I would love to support you. Head to thepodcastteacher.com/collective to learn more and to join us. And now let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Podcasting for Introverts. I'm Julia Levine, aka the Podcast Teacher. I'm a fellow introvert, entrepreneur, and educator. If you want to start a podcast and expand your reach without social media, this is the show for you. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back. Today's episode is super short, but super important. We're talking about your podcast's category and why it's more important than you may think. So let's start with the basics. What exactly are podcast categories? In simple terms, they are tags or labels used by the podcast directories, such as Apple and Spotify, to organize shows. It's similar to genres of music. Categories of podcasts group similar shows together. There are broad categories like business, health and fitness, or sports. And then there are subcategories within each one, like entrepreneurship within business, nutrition within health and fitness, and baseball within sports. You select your category when you're first setting up your podcast. For Apple, you can only choose one category. Other platforms let you choose multiple categories. Most podcasters just choose a single broad category that seems to make sense and they don't think twice about it. But that may be a big mistake. I'll tell you why in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you about the free podcasting masterclass that I'm running. It's next week if you're listening to this at the time of release in January 2024. It's called How to Actually Launch Your Podcast, the First 3 Steps. This masterclass is for people who have been thinking about starting a podcast, but you just don't know where to start. Maybe it's been sitting on the back burner for months or years, and you've been hemming and hawing. If you're ready to get serious about starting your podcast in 2024, you don't want to miss this free event. Head over to thepodcastteacher.com/masterclass to save your seat. Okay. Back to why you should put some thought into carefully choosing your podcast category. Your category is probably one of the biggest factors within your control that has a direct impact on your ability to appear on the podcast charts. It's kind of like that old saying of being a little fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond. In the world where the big fish is the one that tops the charts, we need to find our small pond. And the podcast categories are our choice of ponds. You want to choose the least crowded category where your podcast fits. That's the key, though. Your podcast must actually fit in that category, or this strategy will backfire. So, no putting your everything sports podcast into the cricket category because it's the smallest pond, metaphorically speaking. For example, my podcast is about podcasting itself. I teach podcasting as a tool for business owners, not hobbyists. So my podcast could fit into the business category. But my podcast discusses how to do podcasting, so I could also put it into the how-to category. So how did I choose, and therefore, how should you? You need to start by doing some research. Dig around and look at the podcasts in various categories. There's also a very helpful article called The Most Crowded Categories in Apple Podcasts, April 2021 edition. I'll put a link to it in the episode description. Yes, it is from 2021, and I know it's 2024. While the numbers themselves are no longer accurate, the trends are likely the same. So you want to look at them in relation to each other. By the way, Dan Meisner, if you're listening, it would be amazing to have an updated version of this article. Looking at my potential categories, I saw that the business category contained about 150,000 podcasts in 2021. And the how-to category contained about 13,000. Again, while those exact numbers aren't going to be the same now in 2024, it's pretty safe to assume that there are way more podcasts in the business category than in the how-to category still today. So I chose the how-to category for my podcast. I credit this category decision as one of the biggest factors that allowed me to climb to number 12 on the chart in the USA when I launched. You can refer back to episode 6 if you'd like to hear more about how I made the Apple Podcasts top 20. In general, it's almost always guaranteed that a subcategory is going to be more lucrative for you than one of the broad categories. Most people don't realize that though, and that's why the broad categories are so crowded. Let them keep doing their thing because you are smart and you are tuning into this episode. You won't be making that mistake. When you're in this small pond of a category, you have a better chance of being that big fish that rises up on the charts, giving you more visibility and credibility. Another mistake is that people often choose only one category when they're setting up their podcast. That's because Apple Podcasts only accepts one. While Apple is currently the most popular player, people do listen on other platforms, and it's worth it to take the extra 30 seconds to select a few other relevant categories that might boost your visibility on those other platforms. Finally, while my target audience for this podcast is aspiring podcasters, you might have landed here as an already established podcaster, and you might be panicking that you're one of the ones who just made this mistake. Never fear, you can change your categories inside your podcast host with just a few simple clicks. All right, that's it for today, short and sweet. And if starting a podcast is on your 2024 list, don't forget to save your seat in my free How to Actually Launch Your Podcast Masterclass happening next week. Talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. If something in this episode resonated with you and you're thinking about starting your own podcast, I have a free resource that will help you. It's called the Podcast Roadmap: 7 questions to start your journey. To grab it, just head to thepodcastteacher.com/roadmap. See you next week.